the report.
Game
Hopkins
store
with the Arkansas Sierra Club says residents are paying higher energy costs without receiving cleaner energy.
Yeah. So now, in fact, they're closing four union stores. Three of them.
If they continue to make these choices, we can expect bills in Arkansas to go up even further.
Hopkins adds one reason SWPCO and AECC received F's.
What it is that impression, all these stores that unionize, they still have it.
Report shows the
Come on,
increase
year
in data
later,
centers
it's
is having a negative
still
impact on the
Starbucks
energy
coming to
landscape.
Arkansas.
The Sierra Club
Once
wants
Trump got elected,
coal plants by 2030
and Elon
and
Musk and
new
Trump
gas
basically
plants by
destroyed the
2035
NRD.
and increase
So you got
efforts
all
to
these
build
cases stacked
resources
up
in the next decade.
that not
Hopkins
moving
says
anywhere.
SWPCO is
Starbucks
requesting a rate increase through the Public Service
They're
Commission,
just not
and
going to
Arkansans
negotiate.
have an
So
opportunity
now
to
the
voice their
courts,
opinions.
it's in federal court that said that, hey, you had an election, you have to negotiate in good
where people can go and talk to their regulators.
So I know they
You can
wait
check
on
the grade for your
it's gonna
utility
end up
provider
at the Supreme
online
Court.
at sierraclub.org.
when
I'm Frida Ross, Arkansas News Service.
It's crazy.
Find our
Yeah,
trust
it is.
indicators at publicnewsservice.org.
The mission of KABF is to inform, empower, and engage our listening audience to take action that serves the immediate needs and common good of our diverse community. We create a platform for diverse cultures and groups to share their music, interests, and concerns. We cover news and information that impacts directly on the lives of underrepresented members of the community. We provide a voice for groups and individuals often overlooked by the broader community. And we offer public affairs and education programs to address the health and well-being of the community. KABF, the voice of the people.
Arkansas has the highest child uninsured rate in a decade. That's according to a report from Georgetown University's Center for Children and Families. The data surveyed insurance coverage for kids between 2022 and 2024. It found that in 2023, 94,000 Arkansas children lost their coverage, largely due to Medicaid unwinding. Camille Richoux with Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families says with federal budget cuts looming, kids in the state will suffer.
Even kids who are not eligible for our kids, maybe their parents are making more money now, so they're not eligible. They weren't getting coverage on the marketplace often with the premium tax credit enhancements. Those are expiring at the end of this year, so a lot of families will be able to afford premiums.
Our Kids First is the state's insurance plan for children. Richoux says most of the children who lost their coverage come from low-income families and live in rural Arkansas. She adds most aren't eligible for coverage, but have been taken off the rolls because of paperwork problems. Overall, the report shows the United States saw an 18% increase in the number of uninsured children nationwide. Arkansas's uninsured rate is higher than the national average. Joan Albert with the Center for Children and Families says not having insurance coverage for children puts a strain on families.
An accident on the playground or untreated asthma can result in trips to the emergency room, which costs thousands of dollars, potentially sending families into debt and bankruptcy. When care is delayed due to lack of insurance, children become sicker. They can wind up in the hospital requiring more expensive care.
Albert says the way the state conducted the unwinding process had a significant impact on how many eligible children kept their insurance coverage. Arkansas completed the unwinding in 6 months. I'm Frida Ross, Arkansas News Service. Find our trust indicators at publicnewsservice.org.
The Typical Stamp Club of Central Arkansas will hold a yearly stamp show at the Jacksonville Community Center on Municipal Drive, Jacksonville, Arkansas, on Saturday, October 25th from 9 to 6 p.m. and Sunday, October 26th from 9 to 4 p.m. Stamp dealers from Arkansas, Louisiana, and Illinois will be present. Admission and parking are free. Complimentary evaluations of items brought in will be available. This is the exclusive STEM show in Arkansas. If you have an interest in stamps or stamp collecting, this is an event you don't want to miss. For further information, call 501-416-5496.
I asked you what's the buzz.
If you love American roots music like you hear on the Collage Show, blues, funk, to soul, and rock and roll, head down to Crush in downtown North Little Rock on September 25th. KABF, your home for community radio, hosts the coverage from 5 to 9. Myself, Stephen, and Tim from the Collage Show will provide the soundtrack. You just have to provide your heartbeat. So come on and hang out with us. Enjoy some great music and help keep KABF on the air. It's the spring, that's Thursday, September 25th, from 5 to 9 p.m. at Rush Wine Bar, 318 North Main Street in North Carolina. Hope to see you there.
Thanks to the University of Arkansas Plastic Technical College's Center for Humanities and Arts for supporting KABF 88.3 FM. As part of the Charts Line Performing Arts Series, Charts presents Spanish and American Parody, a production created by Gerard Alessandri. This musical parody offers a lighthearted look at Broadway culture with clever songs, quick humor, and a cast of versatile performers. The event takes place Thursday, October 2nd, 2025, at the Charts Theater, located at 3000 West City Drive, North Little Rock. More information about this performance, along with details about other Charts live events, can be found at uaptc.edu/charts.
Dr. Denise Donnell. How you doing this morning, Denise?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking.
Okay. So first of all, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in this morning. You could be doing a lot of other things, but we appreciate you taking the time to tune in to the workplace this morning. Got kind of thrown off a little bit this morning. We had a show where we were gonna have some guests on, but something happened. We'll get into it in a minute, to where they could not stay for the show. But they said we're gonna improvise and keep going, but we still gonna be able to talk about the issue that is going on with the issue that was going on with these organizers and what they're trying to do around Starbucks houses. Any?
Yes, I do have an announcement. I think I have two of them, but first, this one from Dr. Whitfield. Yes, I do have an announcement. Right here. Okay, so how to report ICE activity. This is about Central Arkansas. You can call or text 501-516-0869. This is how to report ICE activity. And then this is important information that you can share when you are making the report. Where did you see them? Do you have any landmarks for the location? Also, is this first or secondhand information? Like, did you see them or did you get the information from somewhere else? If you have pictures, if you've taken a video, all of that would help in your fight against what's happening to our brown siblings. So how to report ICE activity, dial 501-516-8069, and then give them the information about the location, about whether or not this is first or secondhand information, and pictures and videos are absolutely helpful. And so if you would like to call the 24-hour hotline, that number again is 501-516-0869. One more announcement, I think from Reverend Griffin. I think I just saw that just come through just now. Okay, it says, okay. So today, Oakland mourns the passing of the Reverend Dr. J. Alfred Smith Sr. So Tony, you know him? Are you aware?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because when you said yes, I thought it. Okay, so we'd like to make sure that we hold sacred whatever your spiritual practice is around celebrating the transition of one's life. Then we're asking you to come together for the Reverend Dr. J. Alfred Smith Sr. So Tony, if you don't mind, if we could just pause for a minute as we think of him and hold him in sacred space. Thanks so much.
Yeah, and Dr. Smith was very instrumental in the revitalization of Oakland. He was very instrumental in the civil rights movement, very instrumental in helping bring attention to so many different issues in the community and work to move people in the community into activism, into action to help change a lot of things. In the Oakland and in the Bay Area, in Oakland, around Oakland, Richmond, and San Francisco area. So it was a great man. So, like I said, sometimes as you prepare for days and as we were preparing for the show and everything, sometimes things happen that just, when you say unexpected, it's unexpected, but it's expected. You know what I mean? You know there's some things that you know can happen. Sometimes you just don't know when it's going to happen, but then all of a sudden it happens. And if you're not careful, it just throws you for a loop in that minute. So over what has happened over the past year since January, we've had a lot of people, a lot of different companies, a lot of different workplaces are starting to organize. They're starting to labor contracts. They're starting to get into collective bargaining. They're starting to use their collective energy and their collective strength into being a collective voice and start to demand things. One of the things that has happened is, for those of you who've been following this over the past couple of years, it started with Amazon Workers United. which there were a couple of Amazon plants that filed for election and got won their election to be unionized. Then there was Starbucks, who they started to organize different stores. And in the beginning, just like Amazon, Starbucks said, okay, you won the election, we're going to negotiate. And in good faith, Starbucks came to the bargaining table and they started negotiating. And there came a point where it turned. And partly it turned because once the election happened, and this administration is not for unions. It pushed back against unions because the one thing in a authoritative government is that you want to have the power to control the voice of the people. You want to have the power to control everything about individuals in that country. You want to be the one that silences the voices. You want to be the one that oppresses everybody else. And so once the election unfolded, Starbucks basically said, we're not going to negotiate anymore, which is a clear violation of federal law, that you have to have good faith negotiations. But as the NLRB started to change under this administration, as the courts, as the Department of Justice pushed back against the courts who are saying that, hey, you have to do this, you have to have these negotiations. Now it's moving up the chain to the Supreme Court. And somewhere along the line, it's going to end up in the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is going to have to rule that based on the Constitution, based on what has been precedent, and there have been laws passed by Congress in the past that protects that collective bargaining and that good faith right. They're going to have to decide on this. But in the meantime, what we found out this morning in talking to our guest was going to be Margot Smith, who is the regional organizing director for the Starbucks United Union. She is based in New Orleans, but Arkansas is part of her territory. And in fact, before she became the union organizer, she actually worked as a barista in one of the coffee houses in New Orleans. An organizer that worked for me in New Orleans was in the process of trying to organize that coffee house. And Margot Smith actually came into our office and had held several meetings. And so when I met her the other day, reached out to her the other day, and we started talking, we realized that she had been in the building, that in fact, I had been on a Zoom meeting where she was there, everything. And so it was, quite unique that now she has went from being a barista, complaining and taking action against what was going on in her coffee house, to now organizing these stores, helping organize these stores to become unionized. So she found out this morning that Starbucks is closing 100 stores across the country. And of course, most of the stores they're going to close are those stores that had decided to unionize. And so they're closing 3 here in the Little Rock area. And the number one in one of the stores they're closing is the Benton store. And another guest who's going to have, her name is Denise. She actually works in a big store, and she had no idea that her store was closing, that her store was going to be one of the stores that was going to close. And so Margot and Danny, of course, could not stay for the interview. They have, they're getting out there talking to staff, that they're trying to see, okay, where do where do staff go from there? What do we do? Trying to plan out how to overcome this. And it brings us to, the discussion this morning in how things are playing out. You talk about expected, but unexpected. We know there are some things that we can expect, but it's still kind of, when it happens, it's unexpected. We know that there are going to be certain cuts to programs. We know there's going to be certain retaliation. We know there's going to be ICE raids. We know there's going to be military action in cities. We know this is coming, but it's still unexpected when it happens. I don't know what it is. It's kind of like death. If someone is in hospice, and we know that time is coming, we know it's there, we know it's going to happen, but then it happens, and it's almost like, well, it's almost like it's still an unexpected thing. It's almost like a shock. And how do we know that something is going to happen? We prepare for it happening, and when it happens, not be taken back about the unexpectedness of it. But I knew this was going to happen. We prepared for it to happen, so we've already got contingency plans in place to move forward. And I think that's what's going on in this country right now. I think that's what's going on with a lot of people, is that they're in this. They're not preparing for the expected that's going to come, if that makes any sense. But I just want to have that discussion this morning. What can we do to prepare? What can we do to prepare not only for what's going to happen in the workplace, but what's going to happen in our communities? Because as I've said before, the community and the workplace go hand in hand, because you do not live at your job. You don't have a living room, you don't have a dining room, you don't have a TV, where the minute you finish working, you just prop up your feet and say, okay, unless you have your own business, or but most people actually go to a workplace. And so how do we prepare for that? How do we make sure that our community and our workplace are being less oppressive or being conducive to what we're trying to do? And how do we move forward with that? Because what happened this morning with Starbucks it's going to be a trend. It's when you listen and you put your, as they said, when you put your ear to the ground. When you put your ear to the ground and you open your eyes, you can see some things. Eventually there's going to be some Walmart stores closing. Eventually it's going to be some auto shops, auto plants closing. It's going to be these closings that you will say, that's unexpected. But you know that what's going to happen, because this administration is pushing anything that does not agree with this administration, any entity that's not going to kiss the ring of this administration, or kiss the butt of this administration, is going to be subjected to something. And so how do we prepare? And I'm asking you to listen on this. What do you think we need to do to prepare for all these things?
Well, I'm just a little befuddled by the conversation so far, because I don't understand how you can expect something, but then it's unexpected when it happens. So if you're expecting it, and you're expecting it to the level where you're making plans for it so that you're ready when it happens, then you say, but when it happens, I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't know what to do, because I didn't know it was going to happen. But you just said that you were expecting it to happen. So I don't understand that. So I feel like if you are making preparations Part of your preparation is to ground yourself in what you know is going to happen. And if you are grounded in what you know is going to happen, when it happens, then you can speak from that center and say, it's just time for us to take the next step. If you got a contingency plan in place, what's on your plan? What's next? So we don't have to sit around here looking at each other like, oh my goodness, what are we gonna do? We're gonna follow the plan. We're gonna act. We're gonna get up. We're gonna move. This is the moment we've been waiting for. This is the moment we've been getting ready for. And now it is here. Let's charge forward. I'll be doing my war cry. Oh, it's time to go. Like, I don't understand why you're sitting there like, oh my goodness, I don't know what we're supposed to do. And so Hotep is on the line, and his question is this: what type of effort is done to inform union and non-union employees about their Weingarten rights? What type of effort is done to inform union and non-union employees about their Weingarten rights?
Well, one thing is that information is given virtually every day.
Can you tell people what Weingarten rights are?
Okay, so your Weingarten rights are basically that if you are an employee by an act of Congress, federal law, that anytime you go in to be reprimanded or have a conversation about discipline or anything, you have the right to have someone there to represent you. Even if, when you have a contract, collective bargaining agreement, that's all, that's ingrained. That's ingrained within the contract that the only time you cannot have a representative if you waive that right. But that still applies to places where you don't have a contract. That anytime you go in, you can request that right. And basically, Weingarten means that you have a right to be represented at all times or any time that you're going in to meet management. That is.
So you said so every day that information is given to folks?
There. Hello. Hello. Okay, listen, Otis, please excuse me, excuse us. There is just, it seems to see a bug or something in the equipment. It may be a short. I have to get that looked at. So if it seems like we went off there for a second, then came back, that's what's going on. So another thing is that those rights are posted throughout. By law, you have to, if you ever been in a workplace, most of the time you'll see normally where you sign in or you punch a clock or somewhere they have this poster talking about labor law or your rights as an employee. And that has to be posted throughout a business, that has to be posted somewhere. And in there is your wine. It tells you what your Weingarten rights are. It may not say Weingarten, but it will tell you by law that you have a right to have representation in the workplace if you are going in for any type of discipline or any type of counseling or whatever. You have that right. So with unions, we make sure that information is given out to our union members. In the public sector where there's not union members and where it's not a union, then supposedly human resources of that business or that company is supposed to tell you. But of course they're not going to tell you because they don't want you to know your rights. So that's where employees have to make sure that they read the information that's being posted around the workplace.
Well, I think that this is a great, those of us who have these conversations around racism in particular, you hear us use words like systemic, institutional, those kinds of words as it relates to racism. And a lot of times people cannot understand the concept because they don't want to talk about racism. And so they kind of zone out when you're trying to explain what's happening, particularly to Black folks. But I think this is a great example of what it means when we say something is systemic. And so maybe this will be helpful for some people to hear that you've got the retailer, which would be Starbucks, saying that we're not going to come to the table, which is a violation. And then they say, okay, well, if your recourse is to go to the local government and the local government is acting is in cahoots, in collusion with the retailer, with the business person, then now your rights are still going to be violated because the local court isn't going to be helpful because they're following the lead of the retailer. So you say, that's okay, then we'll go to the federal government. Well, the federal government is also at this point bought and paid for with our administration. So then you're not going to get your settlement, your favorable response by the federal government. You say, okay, well, we'll take it all the way to the Supreme Court. Well, with the world we're living in now, the Supreme Court is in the back pocket of the president, the presidential administration that runs the federal government. And so here you are now asking, what in the world can I do when I cannot get any results from my employer? I can't get any results from my local government. I can't get any results from my federal government. And even the Supreme Court is now on their side. What do I do? So that's what we mean by systemic. All the parties are working together. And in this case, they're working against you. And so what are these workers, what are they going to do? Like, I don't know. Where are you going to go? And that becomes to me, that becomes a critical question. What do you do now when everybody is against you?
And so that's why I know we have this conversation so many times. And I know people are on different sides of this conversation. People have their own opinions about this conversation. But when you look at it and you see the results, then you can, hopefully you can understand why this one conversation is important. Voting. Why it's important to vote. When you start to look at, especially when you start to look at labor, when you start to look at in the 60s when President Lyndon Johnson said, okay, so many things that help Black people that also help white people was the Fair Housing Act, the Equal Rights Amendment, the Civil Rights legislation, the voting rights legislation. All those things happened because people voted to put certain people in office who would make those decisions. Coming before doing President Obama and and President Biden, especially during the 8 years of the Obama administration, he was able to put in legislation, and the Supreme Court was favorable to President Obama in legislation for the equal rights, the EEOC, the Equal Employment Equal Rights Commission, the NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, the Labor Department, the I can't think of it. But they shored up with Congress legislation that made these entities stronger, that were able to not only deal with just unfair labor practices, but it was also able to deal with, if you were being discriminated against for your race, religion, sexuality, the EEOC, the labor board, was able to go in and say, we see that you have done this as a business, and we're going to fine you, or we're going to do this, or you're going to change your practices. Even during the first Trump administration, he tried to come against that. But during that time, there were people who had been elected who pushed back, said, no, this is not going to happen. This time, since he's been elected, anybody who, especially in labor, and that's why when you look at certain people like Elon Musk had about 8 different lawsuits from the labor board against him in his unfair labor practice with Tesla and his other entities. His main thing was, I want to get in here, and if I could gut this, if I can stop this, then I'm in the clear. That's why we start talking about voting. That's why voting is so important. You may not always get the results you want, but there's a greater chance if you're voting that you can get people in who will be favorable or will work to keep what's already there or to shore up what's already there. When you don't vote, basically you're leaving it up to another entity or another side to end up in charge. And now we see the results of that. When 90 million people decide not to vote. So when you talk about what can we do, one of the things we can do is vote.
Yeah, and so absolutely voting is part of the conversation. But right now, when you first got on the air, you said that Starbucks is about to close these stores, and the Benton young employee they had no idea. That's happening now. So when you get ready, you're talking about voting, the next vote is going to happen for the presidential election. It's not until 2028. So that's 3 years from now. And so what you going to do in the meantime? Because you can't say, oh, well, we're just going to wait until 2028 and we're going to vote. And so Lowe's response is, and you need to strike. Because that's something you can do right now.
Right.
And so I'm not saying anything against voting. I'm just saying voting ain't going to help you right now.
Right. And so that's one of the things in the conversation I was with some of the Starbucks employees yesterday, and one of the things that can happen is like, oh, what if the rest of the Starbucks stores say, you know what, we'll walk it out. That's one thing that is different. And for those I go to different countries and I see different things. The one thing that I can say when it comes to European countries, a lot of European countries that are not being held by dictators, they will shut it down. They don't care. They will shut it down. I was in England where the railroad workers they did a strike, and not only did it affect those in the UK, the France said, you know what? We're going to be in solidarity with you. So they went on strike. So now ain't nobody moving. And so now both governments decide, hey, we need to solve this. And so when you said, you know what, you're going to do this, this is what we're going to do. The best way sometimes to hit people, especially these capitalists and these oligarchs, is to hit them where it hurts, in their pocket.
Yeah, and so this is where I think that, again, the conversation about systemic issues should be raised, because what you're talking about and that's happening in Europe, they are deciding to stand in solidarity. So in America, what we have is this systemic discrimination toward the people from the government, but we don't have a systemic system of the people coming together to fight back. So they have a system that says we gonna all okay. If one of us go in there, all of us we gonna join the fight. But we have not cultivated that kind of culture here in America, where one Starbucks says one thing and everybody else says okay. We haven't cultivated that. We can, but we haven't. So I doubt very seriously that all the Starbucks across the country are gonna say, oh, wait a minute, in Arkansas they shutting down this. Let's walk out too. I doubt that happens.
Yeah, and you said something about developing a culture, and if you go back to the bus boycotts, it just wasn't. The community got involved. The whole of the community got involved, and so when you talk about in these European countries, when, and it doesn't, it does not have to be just the railroad workers. I think last year when France was talking about raising the retirement age, I mean, workers and the community. One thing in these countries is the community joins in. You know, you didn't hear people in the community talking about, oh, well, we can't ride the train now. No, we gonna jump in because if they do that to the train workers, they're coming after us next. So the community joining in. They're gonna take something away from these workers, then they're actually taking things out of our community. They're taking money out of our community. They're taking resources out of our community because part of our community depends on the workers and their wages and their benefits. If you take away benefits from workers, it's going to affect me in my community because that's where these workers live at. So it becomes a community effort. And so many times it becomes a nationwide collaborative where we all gonna push, we all gonna get to the streets, we all gonna stand as one. And you're right, Denise, it does not, it's such a fractured thing here in this country because in this country, this part of what this country is built on is division. If I can keep you divided, if I can keep you looking at your neighbor or looking at this person and saying, I'm not going to help this person because as I look at that person, there's a certain identity, a label on that person that I don't want to be associated with, whether it's Black, whether it's LGBTQ, whether it's trans, whether it's Hispanic. I'm not going to help them, even if it's to the detriment of me. And that's the big issue. Going back to the bus boycotts, they didn't care. Hey, we're going to get together. We're going to get this done. Whatever you need, I got you. If you need a ride at 1 o'clock in the morning somewhere, I got you. If your kids, I got you. And I think that's the thing that when you sit down and look at it and realize that within all of this is an oppression on all of us. And that oppression goes deeper when you are living as a minority or you're living as an identity that does not favor this the government or other people. And you can get past that, then you can see that movement that can change so many other things.
Well, here's let me just say this from Hotep. Hotep says, here in America, there is no one for all for one type of attitude concerning the division of labor. Well, I don't think it's a one for all for one type of attitude concerning anything in America. But here is where I feel like we can have a Sankofa moment where we talk about, where we talk about Sankofa meaning to look back. And then to look back to glean what you can learn from what was happening in the past, and then use those tools and to make adjustments with those tools to make progress happen in the future. So it's a looking back so that you can gain the knowledge that you need to move forward. And so what we don't talk a lot about is when you talk, since you brought up the bus boycott, what we don't talk about is that this was a strategy that they had in place to fight the government because of the discrimination. And there were tactics that they used to push their strategy to achieve their goals. And so when we talk about Rosa Parks, we still have the false narrative out there that one day she just got tired and she decided she wasn't going to get up. They told her to get up and she said, "Nah, I'm tired today. I'm not getting up." And that's not what happened. This was a plan. When you talked about having a plan, this was a plan. They planned it so that she would not get up. They knew that she was going to get arrested, and they knew that their next step was, okay, well, now we're going to boycott. So they had already gathered the community so that there were people, particularly people, Black people who were morticians, who had hearses. There were people who said, okay, we're going to lend our vehicles to the movement so that the older people, especially because at that time they had to walk how I'm talking about a long way to get wherever they were going. And so we're going to make sure, especially for the elderly that were walking, the domestics, we're going to make sure that we lend our vehicles so that we can pick them up and take them from home to work. We're going to make sure that there are people who are willing to make lunches so folks can carry their lunch with them so that they wouldn't have to need transportation to go and get something to eat. They want to make sure that there was childcare in place. So people that were walking, and we trying to give, because the people that weren't getting a ride, they had to walk, and now they got to take an even longer time getting home. We got to see about these children. So everybody was doing what they could based on the gifts that they had, the resources that were at the ready for them to make sure that this was successful. And so that's what we are missing a lot of times when we decide we're going to fight the government. We want to go do a protest. We want to put signs out on the bridge. But what is the overall strategy that's going to move us forward that everybody has a role in to get it done? We don't have those kinds of conversations. And that's why we're not as successful as we are as the people, because the power rests with the people, and we seem to forget that.
Yeah, and here's another thing that we have difficulty with, going back to what I said to begin with. You said you'll be both, because if you are preparing for this expected, then why, when it happens, it becomes unexpected? And I think it's a mentality, because part of that is, yes, yes, I'm preparing for this expected event. I'm preparing for it. I know it's going to happen. I'm putting everything in. But I think in the back of a lot of people's minds is this hope that it won't happen. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So you're preparing in a false narrative. You're preparing for, I guess you could say, I'm preparing in case it happens instead of I know it's going to happen. And so then when it does happen, it's like, oh, it happened. Well, and I agree with you. Well, you knew it was going to happen. You were just hoping it didn't. So I think sometimes if we, just stick to, I know this is going to happen. I'm preparing for it to happen. I'm going to try to get, I hopefully we can get other people in that same vein saying we know this is going to happen. And whatever strategy, and I agree with you that a lot of times because you hoping it don't happen, you don't build a good strategy.
Well, we also don't build warriors. So when we start organizing, and then here's where religion comes in. So we got particularly this Christian religion in the Western world, and particularly as it has been interpreted for in Black folks, how we have been indoctrinated is that we're going to call on the Lord for it, we're going to hope for it, and we're going to try to make sure that whatever fight we're in, we do it as clean as possible, and maybe it won't last long, and it's going to be all right. But instead, what we should be doing is, if we are mobilizing because we know that something is coming down, then we have to teach people, train people, get people prepared for war. This is war. This ain't no game we playing. We have to be and when you say your mindset, your mindset has to say by any means necessary. Another Sankofa moment, when we go back and think about those sit-ins at the counters in the restaurants, they were trained on how to sit there and allow people to do all manner of disrespectful, dehumanizing things to them. They were trained at how to sit there and how to ground themselves so that they would not retaliate, because they were practicing the nonviolence that Dr. King learned through Bayard Rustin from the what's his name? You know who I'm talking about, Mahatma Gandhi. And so we don't train people to be warriors, because we tell people, oh no, you're supposed to be nice. We talk about people how you're supposed to be a Christian, you're supposed to be kind, don't let the sun go down on your wrath. That kind of indoctrination also was killing us, because you ain't ready, because you don't know how to fight. I loved to watch the Woman King when I was looking at their nails. I was surprised at first because their nails were what we call those stiletto nails. Now, if you go to the nail shop and they ask you what shape you want your nails in, one of them is the stiletto, which is very sharp at the end. It's round at the root and it comes very sharp. We over here doing that because we trying to be cute in America. But the women, the African women did that because those were weapons. this. You come for me, I'm going to use my nails and I'm going to stick them in your throat. I'm going to come for your jugular, because they were trained to be warriors. And that's what's missing in this country.
You know what? It's missing only on one side. Because on the other side, if you look at this administration, you look at the powers that be, you look at the oppressor is coming for your jugular. Your oppressor know it's war. Your oppressor know I'm coming after anything that I feel like is coming against me. You know, and either you get along, either you acquiesce to me, or I'm coming for you. And when I come for you, I'm coming to where it hurts you. And what hurts you? I'm coming from your community. I'm coming from your livelihood. I'm coming from your freedom. I'm coming for your rights. I'm coming for your health. I'm coming for everything. Either you're gonna bow down, or you're gonna be oppressed.
Yeah, so Lo says, I'm like Malcolm, if you hit me, you're gonna get hit back. If you hit me, you're gonna get hit back. Yeah, they are coming for us, but the reason they can come for us is because they already know we're not warriors, because they believe that we are dependent on them, because that's how we act. We have allowed ourselves to become complicit in the system by depending on them for everything. We were talking about this the other day with Mayor Lisa Hicks Gilbert about how we use our resources, because we get these jobs and then the job pays us a certain amount of money, and instead of using the money to make sure that you have a reserve, or instead of using the money to build up your arsenal, instead of using the money to train your warriors, you use the money to buy to buy some kind of baking equipment to sit on your counter, so you can be like, when people walk in, they, ooh, look at what you got on your counter. We spend our money trying to make sure we got hardwood floors, because ooh, we don't want nobody to see the carpet in here, because hardwood floors look more expensive. We spend our money on that, so now we don't have any money, because we live in basically paycheck to paycheck. So the government knows what you gonna do, boo. Who gonna check me? That's what the government says, because we too busy saying, I can't lose my job there. I got bills to pay. I got a car note. I got a mortgage. Okay, so if we would get into the position where we say, okay, I keep saying this, we're gonna live outside the system. We don't need you to have a job. We can create our own jobs. We don't need you to pay for my house because my house I already paid for. I don't need to go buy every time somebody comes out with a new car every 2 years. Who was it? I knew I had a friend. Every 3 years they got a new car. See, that's what's wrong with us. And I'm talking about all of America, but particularly Black folks. And so no, you can't fight against the government because you need them. You are dependent on them. So when you can't become a warrior until you become independent. And if you can't become independent until you know who you are. You are the king, you are the queen, you are the prince, you are in charge. All you have to do is own it and live into it, and then they'll be scared. But right now, the government ain't studying us.
Yeah, and the one thing about the oppressor knows that, going back to what you said, Denise, the oppressor knows that there are certain benefits, and what you call them entitlements, what you call them subsidies, benefit, however you look at it, there are certain things you want from me, the government. There's certain things you want from me. I want to know how bad you want it. How bad do you want this? And are you willing to pay the price for it? And it may not always be in a monetary sense, but are you willing to give up your rights? Are you willing to give up your voice? Are you willing to give up this? Are you willing to see your children be less educated? Are you willing to see your children go to jail? Are you willing to give this up so that you can get this from me? And that's the problem. A lot of people don't see it that way. They look at it as, in a lot of ways, the government is my friend. Well, if the government or the government, what is it that I love? I love what these MAGA people say. These Republicans. I love this one thing they said. And when I said it, I don't mean when I say I love what they say. It's not an endearment type of love. they'll say, this is what the American people voted for. They say, the American people voted for Donald J. Trump to be president, and this is what they wanted him to do, and this is why he's in charge, because this is what they wanted. But then when you talk to some of these people, say, well, I didn't want this. Well, that's what they said, that you wanted this. What it is that at a point in time, there's something you want. And because you want it, you are not looking at all the intangibles behind it. Going back to what you said about spending money. Oh, man, I want that car. But you don't stop to think, well, if I get this car, that means I'm gonna have to sacrifice something else. I'm gonna have a problem paying my mortgage if I get this car. Now I got to have this job. Now when I go to the job, I got to put up with anything they say. And a lot of times, anything they do, I got to do it. No, I know I got to pick my kids up this afternoon at 4. Will you work overtime? Yes, because you're afraid if you don't say yes, you're going to get fired or something or disciplined. And now you're trying to scramble to find somebody to pick your kids up. That new car ain't going to help you because you can't go pick the kids up. And so it's things like that we don't look at the bigger picture. We look at what is it that you tell me all the time, Denise, that I look at the ESPN version of everything.
Sports Center.
Yeah, Sports Center. I just want the 10-minute snapshot instead of getting the whole hour. Because if you look at everything in its whole totality, your choices will change, and you could actually. It ain't like these people are hiding what they're doing. It ain't like they covered it up. It's wide open.
So here's what Lo says. Lo says, Black folks, talking to Black folks in particular, if you are not fighting for your liberation, all else does not matter. And that's what, so the people that have these homes and have these cars and have this money in the bank and have all these credit cards, they feel like they have arrived, especially Black folks. They feel like they have made it. I heard somebody say, because I think it's in a song. I think it's in Cardi B or somebody. I was on the bottom, but now I'm on the top. And I'm like, okay, on the top of what? If you still enslaved to this system, economically, spiritually, physically, if you still enslaved mentally, how you on the top? And so it is all about our mentality. It is all about the fact that we talk about when Kwanzaa comes around, we talk about being self-determined. Well, if we were self-determined, then we would say, I have all that I have all that I need to make sure that I can sustain my own independent living. Then we would live differently if we really believed that. But we don't believe in ourselves because we don't believe in who we are, because we keep listening to the false narratives that tell us, no, you lazy and whatever else they say. And so it all comes back to education. And that first education is knowing who you are, and stop listening to. Why would you listen to the enslaver tell you who you are? Why would you let the enslaver educate you? They're not going to give you the information that you need to be free. That's on us. And we need to do that work.
Okay. Hey, you know what? Time flew. Boy, it was quick today. So I just want to thank everybody for listening. Thank you, Lo, for your comments over social media.
And we know a lot of y'all out there, y'all just didn't say anything.
Yeah,
and didn't write anything.
And and I just want to say, I really enjoy Mayor Lisa Gilbert Hicks.
Lisa Hicks Gilbert.
Lisa Hicks Gilbert on Tuesday was very enjoyable. We want to work to get her back on the air here the next time she's in Little Rock. Enjoy the rest of your day. Appreciate you listening. Keep tuning in to KABF 88.3, where we are the voice of the people. See you later.